We've got the latest information on Philip Mertens, the Kiwi pilot who's been held hostage in Indonesia's Papua province for 6 months.
For that and everything else worth talking about, find and follow Newsable wherever you listen to podcasts. Newsable, brought to you by BNZ.
Did Ardie Savea deserve a one-match ban for that throat-slitting gesture? Dame Nolene Taurua, what did you make of it?
Oh my gosh, I can see it. I can feel the tension during that time. I'm a politician, I'm not saying nothing, and I'm moving on.
And of course, Dame Nolene is really here to talk about netball and the ANZ Premiership. Has New Zealand Rugby dropped the ball and failed to boost Super Rugby Aupiki after the Black Ferns triumphed in the Rugby World Cup? Dame Nolene, are you a cricket fan?
Geez, I'm not doing very well this morning. I'm not a person that I can confess to say I'm an avid cricket fan. I do watch now and again. Let's move on.
Well, for die-hard cricket fans, it's the last Test series of the summer for the Black Caps. And brace yourselves, Ted Lasso fans. We get a sneak peek of the hit football TV show's 3rd season. Kia ora, I'm Zoe George.
And kia ora, I'm Dame Nolene Taurua.
And this is The Podium, sports news, but not as you know it from Stuff. The punishment handed out to Hurricanes captain Ardie Savea has captured the rugby headlines this week. For those of you who haven't caught up with the news, Savea was given a 1-week suspension for persistent offending after he made a throat-slitting gesture at an opponent after being given an earlier yellow card. Here's what Hurricanes fans in Wellington had to say.
Absolutely tragedy. No suspension. That's like putting verbal actions higher than the red card itself and actually hit high, so no.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that there would be a suspension for that. I feel like there must have been something said on the field to get him racked up like that.
I was a little surprised he only got 1 week.
Stuff Sports' Mark Reason has been trying not to write about the Savea incident. Why is that, Mark?
I don't think there's enormous amount that's hugely interesting to say. In terms of the incident itself, the referee, James Dolman, I thought contributed greatly to it by his refereeing of the first half, particularly when Savea picked up off the back of a scrum and went over the line, and it was unclear whether he had grounded the ball or not. And so there was a pause while referee James Dolman discussed with Ardie whether he had scored or not. And to the surprise of absolutely no one, Ardie went, "Yeah, bro, I think you should have a look at it. Yeah, I probably did score." And so the ref then goes up to his TMO and says, "Probably a try, I think." And with no clear evidence to say otherwise, Ardie's testimony that was taken led to probably a try, led to the try being awarded, according to all of that. And when referees start bringing players in to that extent, it's far beyond the remit and far beyond the referee being the sole judge of fact, which rugby union has always relied on. So then we end up with that situation at the end of the half where Ardie gets shown a yellow card. People thought it was just for the push and shove. That's not quite the case. The referee had put the Hurricanes on a warning down that end of the pitch. So it was another offence. So it was an accumulated offence, which was why the yellow card was given. And then Ardie then gives the throat-slitting gesture as he walked off towards the Rebels scrum half. The referee missed it, but it was entirely inappropriate, even though it's been used in the haka before. That then should have been a second yellow card, which escalates it to a red. And that's what the judiciary decided, that the throat-slitting gesture in itself was not a red card offence, but was a second yellow card offence. That upgraded it to a red card, and they deemed the red card to be at the low end of offending, and therefore a one-match suspension, which I think was entirely appropriate.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again soon. Super Rugby is in full swing, but for Super Rugby Aupiki, the competition is almost over and it's only just started. For Super Rugby Pacific, there's a bit longer to go. For a bit of insight, here's double international Honey Hirimi-Smiler, who's also a Stuff columnist and a Sky commentator. Welcome, Honey. So, Super Aupiki, is this competition fit for purpose? It's only 5 weeks long.
Yeah, it's funny you say that we're halfway through when we're just 2 weeks in, really. You know, honestly, the competition's taken another step. The level of rugby, the quality of skill set that we're seeing is next level compared to last year. And the worry was that, a lot of the Sevens girls, the Porsches and that, were all not playing this year. They're not even missed at all. I think everyone wrote off the Chiefs Manawa because they were missing all the Sevens girls. And now, look, they're absolutely dominating each other because there's plenty of depth there. And that's what this competition is really proving. In terms of fit for purpose, though, I'd have to say no, because it's a 4-5 week max competition, right? So after this, players, possibly they'll name a Black Ferns squad. Players will go back to club. Some will rejoin academies. They'll play a little bit of that. There's still this big gap, right? It's like we're just getting kicked or started, and then they're just sort of, and I'm not saying they're going to take a massive step backwards, but they're returning back to clubs. So a little bit frustrating in that sense, but look, they probably missed the boat. I think New Zealand Rugby missed the boat. They should have expanded straight away, at least ran 2 rounds and then maybe a 3rd round with Super Women's Rugby comp over in Australia. And they're talking about doing it next year, but next year's too late, Well, it's not. I mean, it'll still be great, but it should have been this year. I mean, if you want to go off the momentum of the Rugby World Cup, why not do that? I mean, the crowds that showed up down at Forsyth Bar and North Harbour Stadium the last 2 weeks of the games that I've been calling have actually been decent crowds too. It's just they're spread out around this big, massive stadium. And I'll tell you what I really, really liked about on Saturday after the Matatu and Blues game is they let the fans come onto the field so the girls could sign, and they had posters for both teams, they had flags for both teams, and little boys and girls everywhere were just running up to all the players, whoever had a jersey on, they were just asking for signatures. So that was super cool. And when I say there was lots of boys there, and I was like, man, we need to keep doing this. That's what I like about the women, is that they don't just, have a couple of signatures and go into the changing room, right? They stay out there and they interact and they take photos, and it was just awesome. It was the highlight for me, actually. I mean, obviously the Chiefs Manawa won, so...
Well, also in the men's competition, the Chiefs are top of the table at the moment. Has there been anything surprising for you the last 2 rounds and heading into the next round?
For the Super Rugby Pacific?
Yeah.
Oh, look, I mean, obviously week 1 was a bit of a surprise, and I don't like to say this because I'm not a big Auckland fan, but I actually thought the Blues were just going to rip into everyone after that first game, which I was part of down in Forsyth, and when they absolutely thrashed the Highlanders. So I thought, oh my God, no one's getting close to them. And then, they didn't play so well the following week. So it's like, oh, far out. I can't believe that. So actually there's been some upsets, and I've actually been impressed with some of the Australian teams. I think Moana Pacifica have still got a little bit of work to do, but the Drua are looking really good. But look, I'm not going to lie. I think the Chiefs will be the one to beat. Like, we got D-Mac back, and he's making a world of difference. So.
And before I let you go, how good were the Warriors last week? My goodness, I did not think they were going to win it. They've had this massive turnaround. Do we need to send them out to other cities around New Zealand to keep this winning vibe going?
Oh, look, I've been really enjoying them going out and around New Zealand, but, their loyal fans are at Mount Smart, and I know they're waiting, they're waiting in anticipation to have them home. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It'd be nice to see them head out towards the middle of the year. I think the Tigers have bought their home game over here in Hamilton. But, look, I was really impressed. I backed the Warriors on Friday night. I knew that they would get the job done because there's just this different vibe about them. Like, you can see it and you can feel it from the outside. And I really enjoy listening to Webby. He's just saying all the right things. But the funny thing is that actually when you talk to the boys, and I was on the plane ride home with them back to Auckland, and they were all saying the same thing. So you can see there's this genuine buy-in around resilience, around, staying in the grind and all of that, things that they've definitely lost over the last, 3 years with all the turbulence, I suppose, that they've been through. So I really like that. I can see there's been this real mindset shift in them. So that'll set us up. I mean, I am probably confident that we could really push for an 8th spot, a final spot. I'm not saying, this is our year, but I'm really, really proud of what the boys are doing. And just the way they come back, they just seem like they've got all this weight off their shoulders. I mean, they look good, they're fit. Sean's fit as ever. He's got a little bit of work to do with his kicking game, but you can just see there just seems real, genuine harmony amongst them, and I like that. I really do.
Well, we wish them all the best of luck. They play the Roosters this weekend, which will be exciting. And then they're back at Mount Smart in a couple of weeks' time, which I imagine you will be in the commentary box for.
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually backing them this weekend against the Roosters because they just won the Dolphins in the weekend, which was a total upset. And again, like when you get a team who's, brand new to the competition and they take out, a top team like the Roosters, it just shows it does come down to mindset and on the day. So I got the boys.
Honey, how to be smarter. Always fabulous having you on the podium.
Bye.
Just back to those criticisms of Super Rugby Aupiki competition Honey was making, New Zealand Rugby have responded saying they haven't dropped the ball in this competition, and the decision to expand the contest by a week was made before last year's Rugby World Cup. They also pointed out there is still a comparatively low number of senior players and that it is important these players return to support the local club competitions.
Kia ora, I'm Simon Bridges, and on my podcast Generally Famous this week, I chat to famous chef, cook, internet sensation Andy Cooks. Andy, what did we talk about?
We talked about food, family, fun, friends and eating at the table.
There was a lot of Fs. I did, you didn't. We also used the F word a bit, but I'm sorry about that. And if anyone's under sort of 15 and offended by that, don't listen. Want to hear the rest? Head to stuff.co.nz or wherever you get your podcast from.
We are only 4 months out from the Netball World Cup with the ANZ Premiership now underway. Dame Nolene Toto, always wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. Great to be here and great talking netball.
Yes, love netball. Are you impressed with what you're seeing after the first round of the Premiership?
Oh, look, it's a start. I always think, it's still a bit dicey, but, turnovers are still quite high, but it's a start to the competition. I would probably expect as the rounds progress that they'll start to settle and we'll get some really good quality netball out there.
Yeah, a few speed wobbles there, particularly for the Southern Steel last week, losing 64-38. Ouch to the Mystics. But great to see Mystics shooter Grace Nowicki on fire.
I know, she's such a massive weapon, not only for Mystics, but also for New Zealand as well. And the last jaunt that we had over in Quad Series in South Africa, she was named the shooter of the tournament, So for a 20-year-old, she's leaps and bounds, and I saw her running out there at goal attack as well. So really great to have her on board.
Gives you a bit of options. Are you going back to the drawing board for the Silver Ferns team selections following the first round?
Oh, look, I'm not going back to the drawing board. We don't have time for that. Over the last 2 years, which has been a bit like going to the dentist sometimes, we've predicted that we'll probably have to select the team without trials. And what that has meant is that we've had a couple of years where we've given people opportunities to get out there on court, which I've been able to do. So over the years, we have at least 25 of our 26 squad members out there. So we know exactly what people can and can't do. And this ANZ is the last staging of our program or our planning to see if they've made any shifts. So I feel that we know enough of individuals and now it's just about them turning out for their clubs.
So no potential bolters during the ANZ Premiership that might make you change your mind?
Well, you never know. And I think as a coach, you've got to remain open. You've got to see what people are producing, and you want people who are producing the goods out on court because they deserve to be selected, if that's so. So we've got to keep our mind open and make sure that we cover all our bases.
And when will you be selecting that team and making the decision on who's in and who's out?
Yeah, look, we go right to the wire, which is right through to the grand finals. And 2 days after the grand finals, I can't quite remember the date now, in July, we name the team. So we're also out with the clubs as well during ANZ. We have management meetings over Zoom. We're meeting with the players. So hopefully we can just keep that connection and everybody knows what the communication is over the next 3 or 4 months.
Well, enjoy all the ANZ netball. I am loving it right now. That game between the Pulse the other day involving the Pulse, it was like 1 goal and it was so exciting. I love a good close game.
I love close games too. I'm on the same boat. The closer it is, the more exciting it is, and then we can see those players who can stand up. So that's what it's about.
Well, all the best, Dame Nolene. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Lovely. Thanks for having me.
For cricket fans, the sun is about to set on this summer's season, but today there's one last hurrah, the series between the Black Caps and Sri Lanka that kicks off today in Christchurch. Stuff's Brendan Egan will be there. Kia ora, Brendan.
Hey Zoe, how's it going?
Not too bad. So after that amazing performance against England, are the Black Caps favourites?
Oh, they're definitely favourites. Yeah, heavy favourites against Sri Lanka, who traditionally don't tour very well in New Zealand conditions, and they haven't won in New Zealand since 2006. So, yeah, New Zealand will be favourites, but you definitely can't underestimate Sri Lanka. They are third in the World Test Championship rankings, but yeah, New Zealand at home are heavy favourites.
Heavy favourites for the Black Caps. But other than, in the test rankings, we've also got ODIs as well coming up very soon. How is Sri Lanka going, and will they challenge us at all?
I think in the white ball stuff, they're always quite unpredictable, especially the T20s. You just never know. All you need is one batter to have a quick rapid fire innings, or a bowler takes a few quick wickets and puts the top order under pressure, and a game can swing really quickly. I think they'll probably battle over the 2 test matches, but in the white ball stuff, the ODIs and then the T20s to finish. The other thing is that some of the Black Caps IPL players are expected to be unavailable for those white ball games, so it'll be a slightly weaker New Zealand team. So Sri Lanka might fancy their chances there. So should be a good series, but yeah, I'm expecting Sri Lanka to put up a bit more of a fight in the white ball games.
Yeah, this is a 2-test series as well, isn't it? The first one is in Hagley Oval. The next is up here in Wellington. But you know Hagley quite well. Win the toss, bat or bowl first?
Oh, yeah, 100% you bowl first at Hagley. Green wicket. You want to really utilise that. The first session before lunch there, I mean, yeah, we've seen a flurry of wickets fall. But at the same time, it does look very green, Hagley. But if you get in there and bat and you just play conservatively, don't take too many risks, and get through to lunch, it's really, really can be a great wicket to bat on after lunch. When the sun comes out, the wicket flattens out a bit. But if you can survive that first session, good things can happen after that. Enjoy the test, Brendan. Thank you so much. Here's what else is making headlines. The Breakers are fighting to take the NBL title, with the series currently 1-1, with more games on Friday and then back at home in front of a record crowd at Spark Arena on Sunday. Fingers crossed they can do it. If you're in Christchurch for the test match, then check out the New Zealand Surf Lifesaving Championship starting Thursday until Sunday at Christchurch's New Brighton Beach. Beautiful spot. And the Women's North versus South T20 cricket series is back after a 12-year break. Check the action at Burt Sutcliffe Oval in Lincoln this weekend. Well, the multi-award-winning football comedy Ted Lasso is about to hit TV screens for a 3rd season. And for those who haven't discovered it yet, it features an American coach who knows absolutely nothing about football taking on a London club. But the new series has already won over Stuff's James Crouch, our TV reviewer and football fan. Hi, James.
Hi, Zoe.
What does the 3rd season... I'm totally addicted to Ted Lasso, by the way. I love it. I love it. It's delightful, joyous, it's everything. It's got football, it's fantastic. But does the 3rd season hold up?
Well, from what I've seen so far, they've only let us have a look at one episode. It kicks off here on the 15th of March, but it continues the story from where it left off. So AFC Richmond have been promoted back to the Premier League, but they're missing one of their coaching team. Nick Mohammed's character has been stolen, I guess, by West Ham United, at the same time as Richmond have been picked by every pundit in the UK as being bottom this year. Look, it already has excitement and tension and plenty of homespun homilies in the first episode.
It is just so much fun. Someone told me the other day, though, that if you're a real football fan, you don't watch that. You watch Welcome to Wrexham, which I also watch.
Well, you see, I think that's the funny thing now. And I don't know whether one has begat the other, but I think Wrexham now feel almost like a fictional club, like Richmond AFC, because of the money that's behind them now. And now everybody is kind of rooting for them to go up through the divisions and become the new Richmond. I mean, it's kind of like Wimbledon were in the 80s, except they were full of bother boys, if you like. But there's still some debate about whether this is the final season or not. So we just have to wait and see at this point. There's been no actual announcement like Succession that it's going, but fingers crossed there's more and more of this.
I can't wait. Bring it on. And that's it for The Podium. I'm Zoe George, and on behalf of our guest this week, producer Philippa Tully and audio editor Connor Scott, thanks for listening. What would you like to hear on the show? Do you have a favourite sport that no one hears much about? Drop us a line at thepodium@stuff.co.nz. Catch you next week. Until then, ka kite anō, go well.
My name's Nadine Higgins. I'm a broadcaster, a journalist, and for the past 4 years and counting, I've been trying to make a baby with my husband.
That's me, I'm Dan, and we reckon infertility is lonely enough without making it a dirty little secret. So we wanted to bring you stories from those people that have been through it.
So even if you don't want to talk about it, maybe those stories can give you hope, or at the very least, make you feel a little less alone. The Human Race, a podcast about those who are in the race of their lives to create a life.
Follow the show on Apple, Spotify, or any other podcast app. You can also listen at stuff.co.nz/thehumanrace.
The Human Race is proudly brought to you by Elevate.